I'm Jay Horton. I make movies that make money. This is how. What genres are doing well in the current landscape? Well, keep in mind that we're talking about low to micro budget stuff here. I mean, that's basically what this channel is. Like, I'm talking about the business side of micro budget and low budget stuff. If you're looking to make $10 million movies, a lot of the stuff I'm talking about here is not going to apply. Anyway, so what are some good genres for this lower budget milieu? Lifetime type stuff. Yeah, like Lifetime Network type stuff. And I don't necessarily mean in execution or like, TV level censored. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like plot here. I'm basically talking about light thrillers with a romantic element. Not straight horror, but thriller. These tend to do very well in the low budget realm. And add in an underrepresented main character and you might have something. And speaking of underrepresented characters, like in the late 90s and early 2000s, I remember pitching a lot of black-led projects and being told more than once that black movies have a cap on what they'll make. They don't do well foreign. Same thing with Hispanic-led movies or Asian, name the minority. And here we are some 20 years later, and there's still a lot of underrepresentation. But, and this is especially true when it comes to like the streaming world, like Tubi, the Tubi space, movies with underrepresented leads are killing it. Their time is now. I've seen real numbers from hundreds of indie films, and by and large, diverse movies with traditionally underrepresented leads are burying the competition. If you have a story like that to tell, now is your time. Then there's horror. Look, horror is always going to be a staple of low budget films. And I think it's always going to do fine. Sometimes better, sometimes worse, but I think it's about the safest bet you can get as far as low budget stuff goes. Probably the hottest horror subgenre right now as far as, sales and returns would be creature features. And you have to at least have a decent creature design. These are performing well. And if you have a good creature, no names needed. I've heard of a few lower end distributors even doing MGs for these type of movies when they're good. And still talking horror here, like genre mashup stuff is doing really well. Stuff like zombies versus sharks or, alligator tornadoes or, Velocipaster. And side note, and this is just a personal note, I'm not saying this would do well, but I have a feeling it would. I'd like to see a few movies like this that weren't so tongue-in-cheek, so outwardly campy. I have a feeling that something like that would stand out in the market right now because there's so many of them and 99% of them are just straight silly, like from the filmmaking to the script, like they're just not taken seriously. They're not shot seriously. They're not acted seriously. And who knows, maybe those are the elements that make them successful. But I think it would be interesting to go the other way. I think there's an open market for a movie like this, like a Velocipaster type movie that takes the script and the filmmaking more seriously. Think Tremors. I mean, sure, it has some funny, like campy-esque moments, but the story, acting, direction are all attacked straight up, as if it was Citizen Kane. As far as horror that's not working so well these days, I would say straight up like slasher, killer in the woods stuff. I just feel that is so oversaturated right now that it's hard to get any traction with it. But just like with any of these genres, good or bad, if you do a really good movie, it's going to stand out. Another genre, believe it or not, that's doing really well in the indie scene right now is romantic comedies. They're kind of killing it. Totally counter to what like distributors and stuff used to say at the higher end. But like on Tubi, these things are doing really well. And last but not least, documentaries across the board. Just niche down and look for subjects and interviewees that have a built-in audience or some kind of fan base. And look, These don't have to be like huge thousands and thousands of people fan bases, just enough to push your movie up in the streaming algorithm when the things are released. I mean, if you have one person, an interviewee that has, a mailing list with like, I don't know, 1,000 people, and, 70 or 80% of them are actually going to watch the movie, in those first couple of days and give it a little review and all of that, that can help a ton. What do you folks think? Feel free to sound off in the comments. But whatever you do, keep making movies.